Today a literature moment, which I suppose is a departure for this channel. I hope to have more literature moments, but we're not gonna do the book because this is, oh my goodness, the peanut gallery is making faces. Um, uh, I decided to watch The Grapes of Wrath, 1940, because I was recommended the book The Grapes of Wrath, and I thought, okay, if there's a movie, I'm willing to do that. If there's not, I'll think about it, which basically means I won't be reading it. But so yeah, no, there's a movie, and not only is there a movie, there's a movie with Henry Fonda. So why say no? Well, there are reasons that a person could say no to this movie. Um, but Henry Fonda is not the reason to say no to this movie. There he is, our lovely Henry Fonda, and he's sort of like he plays Tom Joad, Joad. Yes, the whole movie is full of a family called the Joads. Very, please just get a last name. If you have to need to repeat it a lot of times, please get a last name that is just easier on the ears. And but anyway, so yeah, he plays Tom Joad, who just came back out of four-year stint in prison, and he is not silent about it. He's not silent about anything. Um, uh, this is of course also an important actor. It is let me get his first name correct, John Carradine, because we got the Carradine family. Well, this is the patriarch. And here he's fairly young still. He plays even younger than he is, I think. And actually, he plays probably about the age that he is, because he says to Tom, our Henry Fonda character, that he was, there you go, that's where he says it, that he was there at the christening of Tom. Now, and Tom is easily 22, because if he committed his crime at 18, I don't know if we get told specifically when what happens, but he was young, and he doesn't apologize for his crime either. He just there were reasons. Um, so John Carradine plays Jim Casey, which is the former religious dude there. Is it a vicar? Is it a minister? Is it what? I don't know. Um, and the whole thing is set in Oklahoma. That's not true. It starts in Oklahoma. The whole thing goes all the way to it's basically a road movie, but it's not, because that's not what it's about. But it's about the Great Depression, and they are in Oklahoma. He comes home after 4 years, and he hasn't heard from the family, and the family has not heard from him. They're all good with that. He comes home to his old house. Some neighbor dude is living in the house, and nobody else is there. This is the neighbor dude. But basically everyone's upped and sticked. How do you say that? They sticked up.
They got out of Dodge.
Yes, they got out of Dodge, and they're all off to the uncle. And this guy doesn't know what else happened, so it's a bit of a trail, following the trail. Our guy Tom seems to be very loyal to the family. It doesn't even occur to him to do anything else, even though he's not contacted them while he was in jail. And he's not expecting any love or tenderness either. He's going home. That's what he's doing. Turns out the family has lived there for 3 generations. So the fact that they're not home had never occurred to him. And they literally left lock, stock, and barrel. They're not home. So he ends up at the uncle's. Oh yeah, you've got these are the bad guys. The people who are taking the land from sharecroppers. Now, one should probably do a whole lot of research into what is a sharecropper. The little I know of it is a bad deal for farmers to work the land, pay a tithe and be able to sustain yourself by the land. That's all I know. It's probably all wrong, but I decided not to delve into that whole of I don't know, difficulties. Um, but it's not a sustainable way to live. Certainly you can't push push the family to new heights, because everyone keeps working on the farm and all you do is feed yourself and get paid a tithe. So finally it just died and they all have to go, but they're also being pushed out by these guys on the big machines. So he ends up here. He finds the uncle. Of course he finds them. He says to Ma. Ma is only known as Ma. She's played by Jane Darwell, and she is awesome. Two reasons to it. There's Ma. Ma and Tom. These are the two reasons to watch the movie. They hold the movie together. The actors are phenomenal. Especially she is, but I suppose that I'm expecting him to be phenomenal, and I don't know her, so for me that's like, wow, she's that good. This is actually, they've not seen each other for 4 years, and there's no hugs, there's no kisses. I believe she shakes his hand, which is interesting. Let's say this is about 1935 or something like that. And it's Oklahoma. These are the customs. That's what people do. They don't. Later at the end of the movie, she asks him to forgive him, forgive her, but she really would like a kiss on the cheek. I'm like, hallelujah, yes, you know. But it doesn't mean that people don't love each other, which is very interesting. So they have to go. They now have the full family, the uncle, and a whole lot of people. We're not going to go into all the whole lot of people. They have to go. Everyone's being pushed off the land, and they need to go. They have Ma here. This is one of the scenes I don't understand in the movie. I'm sure it's all in the book. Somebody tell me right now, right in the comments, please, what the point is. I mean, what the point? There's a point to it. The point is Hitch in the Fields. She's throwing away from her tiny little box that she has a postcard from somebody sent her many years ago with personal writing on it. She throws it into the fire. This is her old stove. Actually, this is the uncle's house old stove. They've already moved out of their own house. Then she takes a personal letter and reads it, smiles, throws it in the fire. I don't get it. Why would you do that? I would literally take those pieces, I would put it under my clothing, stick it in my pockets, put it in my coat, whatever. That's not stuff to leave. Can it be that compared to body weight? I don't know how many people they have on the car eventually.
She can just burn the box and keep the contents.
Yeah.
In a pouch, because
burn the box, but the contents, stick it in your put it in the sides of your head like Paddington Bear. That's what you do. That's where marmalade sandwiches go. I don't know. So that has me completely baffled. It might be that the book explains it. Please tell me the answer. So that's a shame. I don't think that that's the right. I mean, I would rather just they bring enough food, as in dried goods. They need to drive from Oklahoma to California. The reason that they're driving is because they have a car, which is yay. On top of the car, they've got $150. And that is because everybody there sold everything. Now, in 1930 something, that's $150 will get you a long way. It's a lot of money. 50, they had 250 bought them the car, and the rest is for the trip, for a whole list of people that are going to be in that car. I'm sure we're going to see that in the next couple of. Oh yeah, here's Grandpa. He doesn't want to go. Grandpa didn't want to go. They drugged him to go. They literally bodily picked him up, put him on the back of the car. I'm sure that it's a truck. They call it a car. I'm not sure. It's a truck, really, kind of. But and it's one of those where there's so much stuff on it that you feel that it's gonna topple over anytime. That really classical cartoony feel to it. So Grandpa dies on day 2 or 3, and what Tom, our Henry Fonda character, does is he takes the family Bible. He Because it's the only book they've got. It looks like he's one of the few people there who can actually write. They imply this, they don't say it, and he writes down, this is so and so. He died on the road. We think he had a stroke. Please take care. If you find him, please take care of him. They can't bury him. They don't. They literally can't get into the ground far enough. It's stone. So he's afraid, having just come out of jail for murder, that they would follow them and pin a murder on him or on them, whereas nothing happened. The guy just died. So that's, yeah, that shows that he has a brain. He thinks about things, and the rest of them have no concept of this. It's not that they don't have brains. They're just not seen anything of the world. He's seen something of the world. Then they keep on driving and driving and driving. Certain other people die, and there's famine, and there's a bit of bathing every once in a while. And then there they are. They arrive in the promised land, which is the land of milk and honey, which is of course California. But
everybody wants it to be the land of milk and honey, and that's not possible.
Yes, and since I hadn't read the book and I didn't get taught this in school, because this is one of the most used books in schools that are English language, and I'm Dutch, so I never had that in school.
American schools.
Sorry?
In American schools.
America, in the UK, it's big. I didn't know. I'm thinking the whole time is like, oh, they think they're gonna get work down in California. The problem is, if they're leaving and all their neighbors are leaving, and various states full of sharecropping farmers are leaving because it's the end of an era, and they're not in the first set of them. They're not ahead of the game at all. They're behind. So I'm thinking, eh. And that completely happens. So they arrive, and this police officer tells them, that's great that you're here, but you better start thinking of another plan, because there is no work. They were gonna go picking grapes in the fields.
They've been picked. But 20 times over.
Yeah. And there are 10,000 before you. So this is the camps that they are sent to. There are numerous of them that they go through. This is the first one, and they find out how everybody's starving. Now they're kind of used to everybody starving, so Ma is actually fairly in her element, because they've brought in their car, they've got, I think, probably rice and grits and some sort of beans, because at a drop of a hat she can boil a pot and they have food, they have grub. And then there's a whole set of kids that just start staring at them, and she's asking the menfolk, these are the uncles, it's like, what are we gonna do? We cannot not give the kids the food. And so they usher the family into, they have a makeshift tent. They usher the family into the makeshift tent, but she just gives the rest of the food to the kids. And I'm thinking, is this the kind of movie that, yeah, here she's ushering, this is the family. We got a couple of young women, one of whom is pregnant. We never see her pregnant. That must be the 1940s censors. But in all the things I've read about it, is there's a stillborn delivery at the end of it. It's all misery, and but they don't show it. They just show that she gets worse and worse and worse in there are comparison pages on the internet talking about what made it to the film and what didn't make it to the film. Yeah, so it's all about getting work. So now I'm thinking, hey, we're looking at unions, we're looking at labor, we're looking at, and this is where it gets interesting for the behind the scenes a little bit, because we've got John Steinbeck wrote it, and well, we got a screenplay writer. His name is Nunnally Johnson. He also did The Dirty Dozen, all sorts of stuff. Three Faces of Eve. That's great. Little side bit: he met his wife during the Grapes of Wrath, so he's a happy guy. But the more important one is the executive producer, which is Daryl F. Zanuck. Is it Zanuck or Zanuck? I don't know. He did other things like How Green Was My Valley, A Gentleman's Agreement, all about Eve. And these various films are about racism, anti-Semitism. This one, for instance, Grapes of Wrath, is about poverty, but it's also about labor. And therefore unionism, but they don't say it at any time. Later, the unfair labor exploitation is also in How Green Was My Valley. I haven't actually seen that one. Still have to see that one. And then the peanut gallery is still going to roll her eyes and go, why are we doing this? So you don't, our Jim Casey, played by John Carradine, who was an ex, I keep wanting to say, yeah, there you go. That's good timing. That's him. He's being arrested. He's apparently supposed to be the Christ figure. He's supposed to be, that's why he's smiling. He's actually being arrested, and we don't expect him to return ever, for inciting, rebellion against the extortionist. I don't know all the terminology. The landowners who want people to come in for a below living wage to pick for them.
The boss man.
Yes, many boss men. Well, the worker, the henchman for the boss man. So he interfered, and he disappears here and appears much later, and then we only get his his story, because everything's from the point of view of Tom Joad. We don't really leave his point of view ever. So as soon as this Jim Casey is out of his is taken away, we don't know what happens until we see him again. And basically what he then talks about is that he is either working for the unions or he is actually inventing the unions. It's all about the 10 cent per something wage, and then it goes to a 5 cent. As soon as they've got enough people to do it, then they go to a 5 cent wage, and there's of course the crossing the picket line wage, which is then a little bit higher again until there is no more strike, and then everybody gets a 2.5 cent per bucket. I think it was a bucket of oranges or something. It's like that. No, and they don't say it. There was a lot of to and froing behind the scenes by Zanuck because he didn't quite believe it. This is hearsay, but this is what I found on the internet. He didn't quite believe that the situation of the Oklahoma, let's call them refugees, economic refugees, that it was that dire. So he actually went to Oklahoma, because this is 1940 and the whole thing was written in 1937 or 8. It was current, so he went there. He found out, every single thing about it was true,
and worse.
And he was afraid of being going into those on those lists of communism.
And this is just before the McCarthy era happens, because it's 1940.
40, yeah.
And
he's already afraid of ending up on a list.
That's after the war that starts to get going. So, but before the war, there, because the people who were pro this sort of thing, was also pro-war. So no, not pro-war, but pro doing stuff together, and so there was no reason to hunt the socialists, the wannabe socialists, down yet. And in the 50s, once Russia became the enemy, they started to want to get rid of that.
And it was a political spear point, but that's
a lot later. Yeah. 5 years in this period, 5 years earlier or later, is an enormous difference.
Yeah,
already.
Yeah. Well, he probably was preemptive, and it was good that he checked, because then you can go and say with a clean conscience, I have seen it. This story is correct. So yes, it's fiction, but it's trying to say something about the real world at that time, and that's actually quite a hard thing to do, because you get a lot of pushback. The yeah, the 9 people in their car / truck, that's a little much, and they start losing them. They've lost Grandpa during the crossing of the Mojave Desert, either, or the other one, the Death Valley Desert. I'm not sure which one. It does say, I think. They lose Grandma, and they lose the oldest girl's husband, who was, he had ambition, and he just could not. He was not like a farmer dude, so he just ran off, and she was pregnant. Yay, lovely. So out of 9, we now got 6, and they do have to say it every time they get to a camp. They say, how many? We have 6. How many can work? Or 4 adults, 2 children. There's a squirt and a little bit bigger squirt, and 2 children. And can they work? Yeah, it's 1930s. Yes, children work. There's much fewer labor laws on that. And even if there were laws, I guess they just didn't care. They end up in a camp, but first they end up working not knowing that they are working. They cross the picket line, which is probably this bit here. Then they find out. Then Tom actually finds out how it all works. And there's a point where you just have to say, do we stick with it? Are we going to do this? Do we need to feed the family? They also found out that yes, they can all work that day. That means they have to eat from, because they're now behind literally the fences that we just saw. You can't get out to get to a store. Also, their car needs fuel, and so every time you get out and go somewhere, you don't. You just go in, you stay there, and then you go. Well, the buying the food in the local store on the site, yes, that costs them all the money that they just made that day, and that is not sustainable.
A trick that even older civilizations used, in 19th century Sweden, I know happened, but it's been used everywhere, is to get people on your property to work, and then you pay them in tokens, and they can only redeem the tokens in the stores that belong
in your own stores.
Exactly.
This was exactly such a scheme.
It's exactly what they're doing here. Yeah, and it's you fall for it because it looks great from the outside. You have a place to go, and everything is there, and then it turns out that economically you don't get anywhere. You simply do a step in place.
Yeah, and I think that's why these families from Oklahoma who were sharecropping and had sort of reduced their world generation by generation to, as long as we survive on the land, then we survive. That is really, Ma is all about we survive. And so she's making they have steak here for the first time in probably weeks or months, because they worked that day, and they bought it. And then Tom is saying, yes, but we paid all the money. to have this meal. What about tomorrow? And she says, I'm just glad we get to feed the family. Dad is glad they just get to feed the family. The rest of the women and the young folk have nothing to say about it really. They don't understand any of it. Everyone's literally, there's constant hunger going on.
Yeah.
If you keep people hungry, so when he goes out at night there, he's going walking around. He's told he can't get off site. Of course, he does it anyway, and then he goes to meet our Christ figure, our labor dude, and he's in the tent here with people who are protesting. They are he's here. He's back with the striking workers. But the thing is, because they're from Oklahoma, they're used to all this absolute minimal level of subsistence living. It's not in their nature to kick up a fuss about, oh, but this won't get us any further. The problem is, this is not their land, and the problem was in Oklahoma. That was never their land either. It was sharecropping. So they don't understand anything about economics. So please educate your children about economics, because otherwise you get used. There's a skirmish. Somebody dies, and our Tom gets hurt. So he gets hurt in the face, and it's visible, and they know who to look for, and they're pinning the murder of a person, which he didn't do in this case, pinning it on him. Now, yeah, all you have to do is just say it enough times, and everyone in the environment there will start looking for a guy who has a gash in his face, and he's probably the murderer, because isn't he a body? He must be the murderer. So from this moment on, he's a fugitive. And he's got problems, and Ma says, please stay with me, I need you. This actress is just awesome. He does stay. It doesn't help though. Nothing is gonna help. I don't see how this is ever going to go anywhere. So they move on to the next place, which is actually this one. They get out. Forget how, but they get out pretty much by force, and they just dump everybody in the car in the middle of the night and start going and put Tom under the mattress. And then they end up here, and this is the Department of Agriculture. Now it turns out there's actually good guys in this world. The Department of Agriculture has proper camping grounds for people who are migrant workers who work the fields, and they have contacts with farms that actually give a proper wage. So now, and this Tom is just standing there going, what just happened? Does this even exist? Is this real? Because all they've had up to this point, which is at least half the movie, is just everybody trying to either throw them out, kill them, or extort them. And this is great. This area, so they stay there for a very long time. And there's a scene where they start. That's literally this scene, where they start the farmer that they're working for, and they're doing a good job, and things are going well. He says, yeah, you have to be aware tonight, because they're going to do a raid on your camping grounds. And so this is actually one of the reasons to watch the movie, because it's done so well. Because the moment that's known, there's this whole organization that happens with the guy who runs this Department of Agricultural camping grounds. They know how to deal with this, because who's after them? It is the anti unionists. I don't know if they have a name, but it's the henchmen of the big farms who want to extort people for low wages, and they want all unions gone. and these people aren't even unified. There are no unions. That's the crazy bit. So there's a dance going on. They have every Saturday night they have dances. That means so people can be social, young people can meet other people, couples can start becoming couples. People can learn and move on. This is the way. This is the right place. So they now know where to go. You need the Department of Agricultural sites. You need to ask them for which people to work for. And at the end of the movie, they are. I'm going to skip the whole thing they do, how to get the to avoid being overrun by those anti workmen. It was uh, literally the whole world was against them, and this one time they won. But it's not. Tom realizes he can't stay here forever. He's seen too much, and here he sits. And this scene is important for two things. One, the book, there's a speech, and two, the film, there's a speech. I'm not sure it's the same speech. I believe it's not. When I was doing the research, I think I came to the conclusion that it's not the speech, not the same speech. But this is the reason why this film is important and considered to be one of the greatest films of all time, which surprised me greatly because I'd never ever heard of it. Not even the book nor the film. I had heard of it, and both of them are. In 1989, this film was selected for one of the 25 first 25 films for the Library of Congress to preserve in something called the United States National Film Registry. In this case, because the film is culturally, quote, culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. Aesthetically, I think what they're talking about is that they actually went on location. When I was watching the film, I was like, oh my God, that's such studio work. And then I was so surprised when I looked at IMDb. It's like, no, filmed on location. I've got a list here somewhere where all the locations are. Yeah. Oklahoma, New Mexico, Thousand Oaks, Lamont Needles, and San Fernando Valley in California, Tolpok, and the Petrified Forest National Park in Arizona. Like, they seriously went on location for this thing. When you see Route 66, and you see it quite a lot, it is Route 66 in 1940. It's amazing. Oh, actually, 39. They filmed in fall, the fall of 39. I was flabbergasted because I was sure it was studio work. So, you can go. Yes, aesthetically it's good, as in wow. I would say historically significantly a significant film, but the aesthetics of it, not especially anything else. Framing is good, but wow, the names of all the producers, and these people by 1940 knew how to make a movie. So he talks at the end of the movie. He talks about the sorry, Tom here on screen. He holds a speech, and this speech is about unionism. It's about socialism, but they don't name it. They don't use the word socialism, probably for political reasons. And they even have Tom say at some point, when they refer to the Reds are going to do this and this and that, and he says, who are these Reds that they keep talking about? It's like, you dude, you are this Red. Not that he is a communist, obviously not, because he's working his ass off. But the big landowners feel that labor unions is socialism or even communism, which it isn't. Then Ma, he's talking to Ma here. He's saying goodbye. He was going to sneak out. Yeah, there's Ma. This is their. They have a nice social area in the middle of the camping grounds, and they just went back. They had this fantastic big party, but in the middle of the night, he tries to sneak out, and she's like, "You think you can get past me? I don't think so." Which is why we like Ma. And then she says, "Talk to me," because she knows he's tried to leave several times now because he's also haunted by the law. She knows she's never going to see him again. So she has this famous speech, which I think must be in the book, says she's never gonna be scared anymore because they've already done everything to her that they could possibly do to her. And that's the same thing as you give power to the person who has nothing left to fear. Yes, when you're at the bottom of everything else, the only way is up, I guess. But the other way is dying because, like, a portion of their people died getting there, and our Tom is in danger of dying because he's constantly being haunted. So hunted by yeah.
Haunted is more Halloweeny. This is not a Halloween movie.
Yeah, no. He has a beautiful speech, and I love the way Henry Fonda plays it because he's very gently spoken. He just speaks everything like he is. He grew up on a farm, and he was never taught to make speeches. He was never taught to read any haughty books or anything like that. But he speaks wisdom, and he says they're never going to stop, and I will be. He's the everyman. He's the every laborer and this is the speech about how he is every laborer everywhere. It's something about like, you will find me whenever there's a field to be picked, or it's suddenly a much grander thing than the whole rest of the movie. So and then she at the end, let's see if there's any more screenshots of the end, because there should be one of her in a car. Yeah, they're going again. Now that Tom is gone, she basically says, let's pick everyone up. We're going Fresno. They're going to Fresno. I did make a note. And because they found some decent referrals to some decent farms there, and that's where the season is still open there for picking. The problem is they're never going to settle down. They're never going to have a home. They're never going to, by picking, and this scene, she's saying that we will never die. We are the people who survive. So she is the hope of the family because Tom's gone at this point. Her husband, Tom's dad, is sitting there and he's done. He's toast. He's actually toast pretty much halfway through the movie. He cannot do this. He was a person who ran a farm, and all this migrant stuff is just not, he's not capable of it. So it's supposed to end, I mean, they try to make it end at a positive note by her saying, we are the people, we will survive, you will never get us down, we're still here and we will always be here. But I don't know. So yeah, that was quite a surprising movie. I wasn't expecting anything so heavy. I'd say also depressing and so socialistic. It's rare to find films, American films about the labor union, labor movements.
And not much after this period that it stops. They stop doing it.
Because then you get Second World War, and there's and the Great Depression might be over, because a lot of young men got literally, they went into the army and came out 5 years later.
McCarthyism, that's going to stop any movies made about this for any period, and I mean, this happened to be one that's about the period it's basically in, like 5 years after, but still. But after the Second World War, they can't make any more movies about anything socialist at all. Period. Because you're going to get blacklisted.
Yeah, and this barely uses those words.
Yeah,
The
even
closest words they ever use is red, and they say we're not red.
if you don't use the words, if you have too many of the concepts in it after the war, you're going to get blacklisted.
Yeah.
And you get really, really, really blacklisted, as in no work at all.
Yeah.
And that's, problematic.
Yeah.
But for future them, because this is 1940.
Yeah. Well, Henry Fonda did great after that. He was juror number 8 in 12 Angry Men, which is a movie I still have on my list to rewatch and do for here, because that's just awesome. He was Academy nominated for Best Actor for Grapes of Wrath. So that's something. This, according to stuff I was reading, this is considered his finest role. But then again, I'd never heard of it. So
I think the reason that us both haven't heard of it is because it was black and white, and black and white movies didn't come on TV. And the only place we saw black and white movies was either if it was exceptional on German and it was dubbed in German. So on German television, that was not very useful for something like this, or on BBC, and they tried to stick to the happy stuff. So you get Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire, but this not so much. So we didn't see it.
Yeah, it's because it's
On our own. It was
a
never on.
socio-political movie. It's a socio-economical movie. Now, I love movies that actually show the economy and social situations of the day and age. That's awesome. They're just rare to find, and this is a fantastic find. I am very happy that somebody recommended it to me. I'm also happy I didn't read the book because it would have been very dreary. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, Henry Fonda, he makes it. You see the now healing, but it's got a scar. He had a massive gash on his. That's why they could. He would be too easy to find, and he has to go. There's a lot of salt of the earth people in this. There's also, you can romanticize it, and I don't feel that the movie romanticized it, but I also don't feel that the movie was hard enough on this is not modern living. This is not civilization. This is a complete extortion. Nou, extortion is the uitbuiting.
Exploitation.
Yes, exploitation. And everyone is constantly starving.
Yeah.
From
and I think
the beginning to the end of the movie.
The shocking thing to the 1940s audience is the same thing to the guy who made it, is that it's still going on at that moment, because these conditions are 19th century, 18th century things that
Dickensian, yeah.
run away from England to get away from situations like this, and then it turns out it's in their own house. It's in their own, and right now at the 1914 right now.
And that's a very scary thing for anyone to admit or make a movie about, is that on my soil, in my country, atrocities are going, not atrocities, severe exploitation and neglect is going on, and people are falling by the wayside, and nobody's doing anything. But it is also a side effect of a system that favors the landowners. If you don't have any protection for laborers, it's also not good for. I don't think it's good for any of the whole economy. Ford basically made his own little, out of his capitalist worldview. He made little towns with proper housing and a church and a school, so that his workers would actually have a home. They would have their families there. The families could make everything work. And yes, he owned everything, so he was also, the food that they were buying was also his his stores, but they were living a decent life so that the workers could actually come to work rather than fall sick all the time.
Yeah,
Now,
and An American capitalist's job is to earn money, and the fastest way to do that is to exploit your workers. A smart capitalist person realizes that if you exploit them too much, they die, and then you don't have any laborers at all. Ford was a very smart guy, and he realized that you actually have to maintain your laborers so you have them in the future. But these people that are exploiting these, the bosses that are exploiting these workers, feel like the people grow on trees, and if they die or starve, it doesn't matter. Other people will come, and unfortunately,
and they do.
Exactly.
You're right.
And
they are coming.
For that is what the government needs to make rules for minimum wages and stuff like that. And that's why countries have minimum wages. Because if these people had a minimum wage, and it doesn't have to be an enormous wage, it's just a minimum fixed wage, they would start to be able to build on stuff. And then the gal doesn't have a stillborn baby anymore, because they can think about saving up for money for a hospital and all these things. But you need to make legislation, and as if you let the bosses run your country, this is what you get. I mean, the bosses that the production bosses are setting the rules, basically, and that doesn't work. You need both. In both directions you need rules, but you do need some basic rules for minimum wage.
No.
And that's where countries have them. And
yeah, and Tom Joad, he is holding a speech basically saying, he doesn't say it literally, but the subtext is, I'm going to stand up for the laborer wherever I go, and create better situations for them. And there's a whole movement in the 1930s and 20s and 30s to for this kind of labor stuff. All those freedom songs are from it, and
just calling to the government, please do something to make this a little bit better so it becomes livable, because it's not. And that's why they made this movie, to show it's not literally not livable. People are dying by the roadside, and is in all. I'm sure that they had a list of things that you need to show. I mean, per person in the book, if you have a pregnant woman and you put them in a situation like this, what are you gonna get? That baby. Duh.
That baby. And it was on the review sites. It was like they were saying, yes, it's not stated, but it is implied that the baby was stillborn due to malnutrition. In the film, there's not even a birth. There's no mention of the baby. There's only a mention several times that she's pregnant, and she just becomes less and less able to. She becomes physically disabled, to the point where at the last one time, when they drive out and Ma and Pa are in the front seat talking about how they are the survivors, they literally had to pick her up and put her on the back of the truck. Now, we've seen that in the beginning of the movie when they did that to Grandpa, sorry, and he lived 2 more days. That was it. Some of the stuff is interesting because Ma has no name. Ma is just Ma Joad. Tom has a name. Practically everyone else has a name. Our previously religious guy and now union guy, played by John Carradine, he doesn't survive. He gets killed through the thing, and that's quite a shock to Tom. Yeah, but I think that's, I wasn't really intending to tell the whole story, but it's like, what else do you do with this film? It is about what it is about. I'm not quite sure if I would recommend it, if I would not recommend it. It's literally, what do you want to see? If you want to see certainly a timepiece that had several layers. One, they want to tell what's happening. It's happening now for them. 2, they have a message. 3, they're not allowed to give the message. because of censorship and fear of being blacklisted. So on all these things on top of each other, yeah, I don't know where to go from there. Certainly you can watch it for Henry Fonda and Jane Darwell who plays Ma. Yes. And
Yeah.
I got a kick out of seeing John Carradine as Jim Casey. That was just like, what? What?
Yeah. Um, you liked it? Well, you liked it well enough.
It was interesting. It was very slow. It was slow, but now that I didn't know that while I was watching is that they literally went on location in all these places. Yes, of course you want to show all of it.
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course you do. I get it. I get it.
Later filmers get over themselves when they once they realized, okay, location is a thing. Let's move on to the next big
Yes.
thing.
Yes, beautiful location. Keep it short. I don't know. This may have been one of the first movies they ever went that far out of field to film. I don't know. It doesn't say anywhere.
Was it your opinion?
I gave a lot of opinions. I
I
Henry Fonda, top
I
notch.
are you sticking to them?
I'm sticking to my opinions, although I'm not quite sure they're all correct because I just don't have the
It's opinion.
uh,
Opinion.
literary background for this. I never read the book. I never heard about it before I saw the movie. So it was interesting. Thank you for the recommendation. Recommend something else interesting. I'll give it a shot.